Hi, I'm Jason Robbins. This is Jenny Robbins, my wife. Okay, you can start over. I couldn't remember who my wife was. Been fortunate. Hi, hey, stop, we're gonna go. Hi, this is Jason Robbins and Jenny Robbins, my wife. We've been renovating the Wyatt Earp Birthplace. The number one question that's been asked to me over the last year and a half is, how do we motivate employees? And I just wanna say, I have no idea.
We're super excited to show you what the inside of the house looks like. It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of people have been putting a lot of hours in on this project. Finally, on the tail end of finishing this thing up.
For those of you that have been following this journey, this renovation project, Wyatt Earp Birthplace in Monmouth, Illinois, I want to thank you, and I also want to show you the results of a year and a half of work. So here on the front porch of Wyatt Earp Birthplace, we've stripped the paint off, discovered what the first layer, the first coat of paint was, and we have matched that color or come as close to that color as we could. With the windows, we've replaced, I believe, 3 or 4 pieces of glass. We've not replaced any windows, but we were able to find some rolled glass that was old. Some of the glass was broke and cracked, and so we've had to replace it, and we did not want to do that with new glass. You could tell the difference if we had done that. So we used to have a hole in the ceiling here that was approximately 3 foot by 6 foot. I really don't remember how big the hole was, but it was big. And that's been patched in.
Light fixtures that are a mixture of gas and electric, which is something that they did when electricity wasn't as reliable as it is now.
We actually found gas lines up in the ceilings, and so we know that they had gas run to the center of the rooms. In this room, if you remember, the hardwood floors were in really disrepair. They just were in poor shape, and we were able to sand a very light sanding on these and not get too deep, but refinish them, and they turned out beautiful. The floor in the kitchen is one of the original floors from the 1860s. And this was, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to save this floor. It was really bad. And it had linoleum, and it had a ton of nails in the linoleum from where they patched in some other things. The kitchen cabinets, you know, were like from the 1970s or 80s and just really didn't fit. So we took out the old cabinets. My wife found this dry sink that was from the 1800s, and it came from Iowa. Someone had put in a drain throughout the years. And of course, we've run some plumbing through the back wall in order to make it so that we can actually use the sink and it's not just a dry sink. This wall in the kitchen, it had paneling on it. We removed it. Of course, that would not have been original. And we do have some drywall in the house. Someone else had already renovated and put some drywall in. We did not take out drywall. We fixed some drywall that was already done, and we took some of that out and replaced it. But anywhere there was plaster that was cracked or coming down, we actually replastered and kept all of the plaster. We did not take out plaster.
We've got this beautiful stove. We've got this beautiful refrigerator here. And on the outside, it looks like it's an old refrigerator, like what you would have had back in that time period. But on the inside, it's a beautiful new refrigerator. Over here, we've got this old gas stove that is from the 1800s. Normally, they would have been wood, and you could light your burner and turn on the gas, and that would have been a pretty big upgrade. These doors have been refinished. I think they turned out beautiful. And in here, if you'll remember, these walls had no wallpaper last time you were here, and there were a lot of repairs being done in this room. The wallpaper's been finished with the 1860s wallpaper. The stove has been put back into place where it would have originally been. And we've got the heat vent here. You'd light your stove here and the heat would go up through the ceiling. And that's been recoated. We put in this electric light that was originally gas, but it's been electrified, and it goes up and down. You could bring it down and light it, and then put it back up.
In this room, if you remember, The ceiling, this was drywall when we started the process, but we took down the drywall that was in here and discovered some really lightweight floor joists. When you were upstairs, you felt like you might go through the floor. Now, we left all of those because we don't want to take anything out of the house, but we did add some lumber to the floor in order to beef it up so that you did not feel like you were going to come through the floor when you were upstairs. Same with down on the floor that we're standing on currently. There's still a good slope to it, but we took out some of that slope and reinforced in the basement the floor that we're on. Again, when you came close to this wall, you felt like you might go through the floor. There's still a slope, but it's solid and it will hold us.
As you can see over here in the corner, we've still got the old wallpaper, the original. There's layers and layers of wallpaper there. And we've put a nice frame around it and something to protect it.
Over here, you'll see where there was some termite damage. We've treated the house for termites. And instead of trying to patch it in with wood, we just went back over and painted it. We found a lot of active termites in the garage, and we've had this property treated for termites. We want to make sure that it's here for a long time.
You can see where the original front door was, and this was left open on purpose so that you could see it, and we just framed around it and made it a little bit more sturdy. And we've put gas and electric light up here. You can remember there was just wires hanging last time probably that you were here. And these are some of the things that we've talked about in the previous videos that we've found on the property.
So as we have been renovating this, we insulated all of the exterior walls and the attic. So if we ever had something opened up, we made sure that we insulated. If it wasn't opened up, we did drill some holes on the inside of the house to blow in insulation. A lot of people will do that from the outside, and then they plug the wood siding, and you can see all of the plugs. Because we already had a lot of plaster work to do inside, we chose to do it from the inside so that you would never see the aftermath of insulating the walls.
In here we did the milk paint on the walls.
If you remember early on in the process, we discovered that these chimneys, which are made of brick, they stop and are supported by floor joists underneath that are only 2x6s, and they've got a long span. And they were sagging, the weight of the chimneys were sagging down on the floor and causing a lot of problems. So I'm so thankful that we discovered that, and we were able to reinforce in the basement and not make any modifications or changes, just added some lumber in the basement to keep this from settling anymore. Down in the basement, there's limestone for a foundation. You know, we went through and did some tuck pointing down there, found some limestone pieces that were loose and reinstalled those and made sure that everything was secure. So that this property would be around for a long time. So this is one of the largest bedrooms in Wyatt Earp Birthplace. This is the addition that was built in the 1860s, and it's got a little taller ceilings. This door was a hollow core door that somebody had installed, and we replaced it with a 4-panel door that actually matches the other doors in the property. This came from Attic Antique.
Over here you'll see where we've updated these old lights that were originally here, and now they're safe to use again for another 100 years, I hope.
The lights that we've been installing, a lot of them came out of Attic Antique and other places. They were gas lights, and they've been converted to electricity. So
the bathroom's still a work in progress, but you can see that we now have a sink with some very old original faucets that are unlacquered brass, and the bathtub has been recoated and painted, and we've got the medicine cabinet up and a light that is both gas and electric. And you would have turned this knob here to turn on the gas and light your light. The toilet hasn't been finished yet, but that's gonna go right here, and the tank is gonna hang up here, and then you'll have the pipes that go down to the toilet.
So here in the bathroom, this was one of the worst floors we had in the house. Under the sink, there'd been a lot of water damage. Under the toilet, there'd been a lot of water damage, and someone had patched it in with plywood over the years. And we were able to find this oak from Burlington, and patch it in and save this room from having to refloor it. So we have the original floor under most of it with a few patches. It looks great. So happy with the way it turned out. So this back porch area is where we're throwing all of our junk as we finish this process. If you remember in the very beginning of this, there was a hole in the ceiling. There was a raccoon, dead raccoon on the floor. And I'm pretty sure that's where the live raccoons were coming in, was through this ceiling. So this has been fixed. It's a mess, but this will be the laundry room in the future. So we'll have this washer and dryer installed today. We'll have this all cleaned out, ready for the open house.
So in here we had the challenge of, this is the older part of the house, so the ceilings are lower. And I don't know if you will remember, but things were looking pretty rough in here. There was some repairs needed on the windows because you could see daylight through the corners where things needed to be redone. We didn't have any lighting in here, so we've struggled with these low ceilings to find a spot, find a light that would work, and we've had to do all kinds of things to the lights to raise them up.
So up here, we were able to insulate the attic on this original part of the house. There was zero insulation on this original part. The addition that was done in the 1860s, it did have some insulation, just not enough. Oh, I hear somebody working.
So this room right here is the room that Wyatt Earp was born in, and I don't know if you remember what it looked like originally, but let me refresh your memory. We had some ceiling crumbling right here. The floors were a mess. We had no lighting. There was just a light bulb hanging, and this dresser was originally in this room and the raccoons had broken it, and so there were pieces all over. So now we have the original bed and dresser back in the room that it was in, and we've got the lineage of the Earp family on the walls here beside the bed. This dress, it was here in the museum. It was a museum and was hanging here, and we put it back for the open house just so people can see what people dressed like. And the dress is in bad shape, but it gives you an idea of how people dressed back then. The dress was worn by a relative of Wyatt Earp.
So this wagon, we ended up with this wagon from not being able to sleep at night, 3 a.m. in the morning, laying on the couch, Facebook Marketplace. I was not looking for a wagon, and I stumbled upon this, and I said, "Jenny, you want to go get a wagon?" And she said, "Yeah." The next day, we drove down to Southern Illinois, and we picked up this wagon. This has an 1800s undercarriage with a cedar box. It was rebuilt to be a prop in a movie that was filmed in Southern Illinois called Letters Home. It is a Civil War movie, and has not been released yet, so be looking for that. This wagon came from there. When we tore this roof off, it had 3-tab shingles. There were several layers, and then there was a layer of shake cedar shingles underneath on the second story part that we found. So we decided to replace the roof with what was originally on the house, which was shake cedar shingles. This was a tedious process. Each shingle takes up a very small amount of space. So you can imagine, you know, from 2 inches to 6 inches wide, 6 inches, 10 inches tall. Each piece has several nails. It's not like modern day shingling where you have a large shingle and you're covering a lot of space with 4 nails. This was tedious. Not to mention, cedar shingles, the shake, cost 10 times the money of an asphalt roof. So this was a very expensive process. Outside, we stripped all the paint down, repainted. If you look up there where the second story meets the roof line, that particular spot, the siding was rotted and falling off. We were able to find some siding that matched this from another house that was being torn down in Knoxville, and we were able to reclaim some of that siding and patch this in. If we had bought new siding to patch it in, you would have really noticed. But since we were able to find some older siding on a house that was built in the late 1800s, it actually matches up really nice. So back here in the backyard of Wyatt Earp Birthplace, yesterday we were trying to install some toilets and sink and a bathtub, and we were running into all kinds of problems with the drains. So we've had 2 different companies out here helping us with cameras and snakes, and they're running and trying to clean out this sewer line. This house sat empty for so long that there's scaling that happens in this cast iron, and that buildup clogs it up, and that's what's happened. We've got a clog in our main sewer line, and we're gonna have to dig up the yard. We're gonna wait for that for a few more days before we dive into that. But we are ready for this open house, and we're running into problems just last minute. So this is real construction, renovation, and we are on a timeline, but we're gonna make it happen. And this part right here, if you remember in the previous videos, this siding was all covered up, had plywood. This also came out of a house that was being torn down just like the front, and we were able to patch it in and make it look original. This porch was an add-on, and it had some siding that was put on like the 1950s. We took it down and we're able to match it up, make it look nice. So this part of the house, this is the northwest corner. There was a lot of rot here, water damage. I think there was some termite damage here as well, and we had to replace a lot of wood in this. Some of the floor joists, some of the box seal, some of the corners, the siding. This was a bad spot, really problematic. So even though they did not have AC back in the 1800s, we know that people that are going to Airbnb or rent an Airbnb, they are not going to want to stay here if there's no AC. So we've got an AC unit. We've tried to hide it, put it in a spot that not a lot of people are going to see it. And also an on-demand hot water heater. This is the vent for that. So if you rent Wyatt Earp Birthplace, you're not going to run out of hot water. And we know how important that is for people that like to take long showers. So these are some renovations or some add-ons that we understand. It wasn't like that back then, but we want you guys comfortable at the same time. Even the sidewalks here in front of Wyatt Earp Birthplace were covered in grass and sod. There was probably 3 or 4 inches of dirt on top of these brick sidewalks with grass growing on top of that. So we've been able to uncover a lot of these, and they look amazing. I don't know why anybody would let them go. Hi, we're standing here outside at the Wyatt Earp Birthplace. We want to share with you what the vision is for this historic landmark. We've got 3 lots that we own next to the Wyatt Earp Birthplace, with a 4th that we're hoping to acquire that the school district currently owns. And what we're hoping to do in 3 to 5 years is build an 1800s town next to it. We would rent out the saloon, we would rent out the church, we would rent out the jail, we would rent out all of these different buildings that will be built on these 4 lots as Airbnb, VRBO. You could also rent the whole thing for a wedding or for a large party or gathering. In order for that to happen, we need your help.
So come and stay at the Wyatt Earp Birthplace and be a part of helping us to save this property.